Okay, we're live. Hello everyone and welcome to our live stream. Do let us know in the comments where you are watching from. I'm joined today by the wonderful Debbie Young, who is our self-publishing expert. She knows absolutely everything there is to know about self-publishing and actually hybrid publishing, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute. But if you have any questions at all for Debbie to do with self-publishing, do pop them in the comments and we will try and get through as many as possible. Debbie's been answering questions on Twitter or X for most of the day. So now's your chance to get some live feedback from her. So Debbie, let's get started by, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your self-publishing journey?
Yes. Well, it's been a busy and exciting, about 10 years really. I've been, I started off, I've always wanted to be a writer, and it was only when I sort of reached a certain birthday that I decided I was really going to go for it, having worked in all sorts of other things like PR and marketing, and I worked for a reading charity as well. So lots of sort of reading and writing related work that I'd done before then. And then I discovered that self-publishing had been pretty much reinvented as a result of all the digital revolutions, with the advent of ebooks and online shopping, and print on demand, very important. Digital printing on demand, so that you no longer had to have a minimum print run of thousands of books to make it viable to produce a self-published book that you could sell at a profit. And so I tested the water a little bit with self-publishing some collections of short stories, and then that the feedback and the experience gave me the confidence to then go on and write and self-publish 2 series of novels, which were later picked up by one of the new digital-first publishing companies, Boldwood Books, fabulous publishing company who are changing the way of traditional publishing. And so I've now got, I've just finished a 13-book contract with them. I'm just about to start a new 4-book contract with them, so busy there. But I'm also... in the meantime, I've been working for the Alliance of Independent Authors, and for about 7 years, I think, I was the commissioning editor of their daily blog of self-publishing advice. That doesn't mean I have to write every post. I just have to find an idea and attempt to write it or compile posts from other people's wisdom. And so that really fast tracked my knowledge and kept me up to speed for a long time. And I'm still a UK ambassador for the Alliance of Independent Authors. And then I suppose a couple of years ago, Jericho invited me to start sharing my knowledge and my self-publishing experience and my knowledge and enthusiasm with Jericho Writers members of the newish Simply Self-Publishing course. I've now taught it 3 times, and it's been really exciting to see so many of the students going on to self-publish books to professional standards, and there's some really lovely examples out there now. So, yeah, so that's where I am.
Yeah, it's been so lovely seeing the success stories that have come out of the course. It really has been lovely. I can see, we did think this, there is someone saying that there's an echo, so I'm not quite sure what to do. Maybe if we mute the mic and unmute it, let's have a go at that and just see if that makes a difference. Anyone who's watching, can you let us know whether it's both of us or if it's just Debbie that you're hearing an echo on, and then we'll see if we can do something about that. So Debbie, in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about your hybrid situation, because obviously you are specifically self-publishing expert on the Simply Self-Publish course, but you have also gone on to get a traditional book deal. So what's that been like for you? How's that been?
Yeah, that's all. I think my echo, I was hearing the echo as well, but I think it's disappeared now. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think it's gone. I think it's okay.
Well done. Yeah, so that's been entirely positive. There are a number of relatively new publishing companies who seem to me to be taking the best of both worlds from self-publishing and from traditional publishing. The self-publishing sphere is very innovative, particularly on the marketing side. And to be honest, I hadn't intended to go for a traditional contract because I was very happy with what I was doing. But when I was approached by Boldwood and they really wanted to take over my backlist and then just keep expanding my 2 series, I thought, well, that's a good way of keeping that plate spinning while I can do other things as well, like teaching this course and writing other books as well, because I will continue to be. I had it written into my contract that I would continue to self-publish any books that I wanted to write that didn't match Boldwood's list, because all traditional publishers have their lists of their target, the particular genres that they want to address and the particular readers that they're trying to target. And I want to write all sorts of things. So I'll continue to do both. And I continue to advocate for both. But what I would say with the hybrid publishing, when you go for a traditional contract as well, you need to be really careful that the contract is right for you. So I've got a very good contract, very favourable contract that I'm very happy with. But I've heard such horror stories. And I think one of the questions that I was answering on the Twitter chat earlier was to do with copyright and licensing rights. And I was saying then that if you sign with a trade publisher, you've got to make sure that you do it to very specific terms, so that you're only doing it for a fixed term, obviously with an option for renewal if everything is going well, and that you only license the rights and you don't give your copyright away, because your copyright belongs to you and you can continue to exploit the earning potential from your books, not only for the rest of your life, but for 70 years after your death. Well, somebody else would have to do it 70 years after your death, but you've got a tremendous window, and that's one of the very exciting things about self-publishing, because in traditional publishing, their business model is to get results quickly or not at all. So if your book hasn't really started selling well within the first 6 months to a year, they're probably going to lose interest in you. They're not going to continue to promote your career or your books. There are a lot of single book contracts out there. I mean, I was overwhelmed that I got a 13-book contract. It's quite unusual. I've seen too many people who are put off traditional or put off writing, in fact, because they've ended up stuck in a traditional contract that didn't encourage them and that didn't give them the time they needed to really develop their skills. And I think that's one of the great joys of self-publishing, is that you have so much. There's not the same pressure. It can be nerve-wracking in other ways as you get used to it, but you don't have that worry that somebody is going to delist your book, that you're going to go out of stock and your books will end up pulped and all that sort of thing, because nobody is going to delist your books unless you do. So it's completely driven by the needs and desires of the author, whereas in a traditional publishing company, the author is the content producer who is a tiny part of an enormous setup. So it's quite different. So as a self-published author, you have that autonomy, but of course you also have all the responsibilities. You have to be able to do, or you have to be able to fulfill all of the functions that a traditional publishing house would do. And whereas a traditional publishing house would have an editing department, have a whole string of editors and cover designers and marketing departments and production and distribution and all that sort of thing, all of that rests with you as the indie author. So there's lots of things you need to master, different skills, but also, and this is why self-publishing is such a misnomer, you don't actually have to do it all yourself. What you do is you recruit freelancers who have the specialist skills and knowledge that fill in the gaps in your particular experience. No author can do absolutely everything themselves to professional standards. So no author should try and do all their own editing. Yes, you should self-edit as much as you possibly can, in the same way that you would if you were submitting a manuscript to a traditional publisher. You want your book to be the best it possibly can, but you need to hire an editor and a proofreader to really make sure that it's polished. And because it's only by getting your book to the best standards do you really have the best chance of success in actually getting on to sell books. So you need to recruit editors, cover designers, you need to learn marketing skills and to become aware of the different specialised services. There are loads of specialised services which make it so much easier these days. So you need to, you're kind of an HR manager in a way, managing those resources and keeping on top of it and planning it all, which is the first time you do it, you think, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming, which is why we have this course, because it takes you through all of the steps from making sure your manuscript is the best it could be, to editing, to cover design, to production and distribution, to exploiting that intellectual property, because intellectual property isn't just about getting an ebook out there in a paperback and audiobook. There's the other rights, there's the foreign language translations, there's special formats as well, large print, dyslexia friendly, all that sort of thing. And in our dream worlds, film rights, we all film rights, TV rights, and all that sort of thing. But all of that is yours to exploit. So, and that's also something when, if you are negotiating a contract with a traditional publisher, you don't want to give away, you don't want to license any rights that they're not going to exploit. So if you're supposing you make a deal with an ebook specialist and they're only going to do ebooks, or with an audio specialist, which there are more of, I guess, these days, you don't want to license rights for an ebook or for French and German translations if you know that company is only ever going to produce English language audiobooks. So it's a question of parceling up the different aspects of the different little component parts of your total intellectual property, and then using those to best advantage, whether it's to publish them yourselves, because some people do commission and publish their own audiobooks and translations, or whether you parcel those out to specialists. So you can tailor the whole self-publishing experience to suit your individual experience and skill set.
God, there's so much, isn't there? Like you don't actually think about how much goes into self-publishing and all the different avenues you can take. I do think it's a good point to point out that if you are a student on the Simply Self-Published course, you'll get a bundle of discounts for sort of trusted providers of people who can do your book cover and people who can do your editing and distribution services and all things like that. So that's one of the perks of the course, is you get that lovely bundle of discounts that we are constantly adding to. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
So I've got a few self-publishing specific questions. If anyone watching does have their own questions, do pop them in the comments and we will try to answer them, or Debbie will try to answer them, because I know very little about self-publishing. But can you tell us a little bit about print on demand, Debbie, and how that works?
Yeah, I love print on demand. It's magic. it's whereas in the olden days, you know how printing was done, where you had a print run for a book and you would have all plates for each page, and they'd have to be changed on the machine. It's very labor intensive. You get these very inky people changing the plates and doing a print run, and because that's so labor intensive, you could only cost justify to get the cost of a single unit down to an affordable, viable rate for selling on. You would have to do an enormous print run. So, typically 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Now, if you were doing that as a self-published author, A, you'd have to pay for it all up front. B, you would then have to find somewhere to store them. So you'd find all these authors with their spare bedrooms and their garages piled high with boxes of books. It's only when you have 1,000 books you realise how much space they take up, And then you have to distribute them. And of course, there's cost of distribution. Postage these days, horrendous in the UK. English first class stamps have just gone up to £1.25 for a letter. It's shocking. But with print on demand, it's very clever, because it's all done. You know how in your office or in your home you've got a laser printer, digital laser printer, and it doesn't cost. There's no economies of scale, or conversely, it doesn't get cheaper per page the more pages you print. So if I print out 100 pages on my home printer, it still costs the same amount per page as if I'm printing just one page. So now these print-on-demand firms, what they do, and that they tend to be specialists, and the big specialist is Ingram Spark, Amazon's KDP service also uses print on demand to fulfill print book orders. What they do is, instead of printing one book at a time and so many copies of a book, they sort of batch together lots of different books by different authors, which all have the same specifications. So they might print 100 different books by 100 different authors that are all, say, 9 by 7 inches in finished size. And then they'd put all that information into the computer, and brilliantly, their machine would then churn out however many copies. So you could have 6 of one of another, 17 of another, and it'd all come out on the same print run. And when I went on a tour of Ingram Spark, how Andy Bromley explained it to me was that they fool the computer into thinking it's printing 1,000 copies of one book when it's actually printing 1,000 of all different books. And they have different check codes and things to make sure that the right cover ends up on the right interior, on the right book bundle. And it spits them all out at the end, and they at a very reasonable price. So a book like Jane Anderson's one of my pupils, Jane Anderson's lovely book, designed by Rachel Austin. That would it's quite a chunky book. It would probably cost her maybe £3.50 to have a book like that printed by print on demand. But even better, what happens with print on demand is the author never has to see or touch the books. Of course you want to, because they're all so lovely and there's nothing like getting your own book. But what happens is that the orders go directly to the printworks. So KDP, which is the division of Amazon which distributes ebooks and paperbacks, they will have their own press, their own print on demand press. So if I go on to Amazon and I order a copy of The Girl Who Fled the Picture, then Amazon, in the background, KDP will print a copy off and Amazon will post it to me seamlessly. Jane Anderson will never have to get involved. She just collects the money when it's paid for. So she gets sent the royalty that is the difference between the cost of sale and distribution and the retail price. So that works for customers of Amazon. For people who are buying books through bookshops or ordering them from libraries, borrowing them from libraries, how that works is that Ingram Spark, that I mentioned before, they don't have their own shop, they don't have their own storefront in the same way that Amazon and KDP work together. Ingram Spark is a print-on-demand supplier that feeds, when you upload your book to Ingram Spark, they then upload that information to the databases of all the distributors who supply booksellers and libraries. So your book will end up in, say, Waterstone's database, for example. So they can either order from bookshops or libraries, the bookseller can order it from their usual supplier, which will most likely be gardeners in this country. And then Ingram Spark prints a book, goes through the distribution system to the bookshop, and again, the author never sees it. You just collect money.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I still can't believe how they can do it and still keep books at mostly under a tenner, for a paperback.
Yeah.
It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what print on demand was, but I didn't really know how it worked. So that's really interesting hearing the actual ins and outs of it. And then what about ISBNs? What does an author need to do in terms of getting an ISBN?
Yeah, okay. I'm still getting a little bit of echo. I don't know if anyone else is getting echo. I'll just mute myself and unmute myself again. See if that makes any difference. I don't know. I moved my phone away from my computer as well. I don't think that's what's causing it. Anyway, ISBN is the little, you will all have seen the barcode on the back of the book. And if you look at the barcode, there's a number, long number. Oops. We get it right. Long number above the ISBN. And what ISBN stands for is the, let me get this right, International, I can't remember now. It's a book distribution, International Standard Book Number or something like that. And what it is a unique distribution code, a unique product code, really, that's used by booksellers and libraries to make sure that if you're ordering something, somebody's still getting the echo.
That's so strange because I can't hear it at all.
I don't think I've got nothing else turned on here. Actually, I think I might have fixed it again.
Okay. We've got like 9 minutes left of the call.
Okay. So you need a different ISBN for every different format of the book. So the ebook will have a different ISBN to the paperback, and the hardback will have a different ISBN, and the audiobook will have a different ISBN. So although they're all the same book with the same person, the customer will know that when they're ordering a paperback, they'll get a paperback and not an audioback, and not a French language edition or whatever. And this is internationally used all over the world. And it was introduced in about 1970, when it had got to the point where there were so many books being published that people just couldn't keep up. And so interesting, I was in a secondhand bookshop the other day, and everything that didn't have an ISBN and a barcode on it was everything that didn't have an ISBN was counted as vintage. So that was interesting. So how you buy, so you need to buy your own ISBNs, and oh, sorry, I'm echoing again. See if that fixes it.
I'm going to turn off my mic and see if that helps.
Okay. If you have, you need to buy your own ISBN, and then you will be recorded as the publisher of record. If you try and use anybody else's ISBN, because there are some unscrupulous people out there who will say, oh, you can have a cut price ISBN from us, they will go down, and the ISBN will be registered in their name and not in yours, and you want to be named as your publisher, so you need to buy your own ones. So although it's a universal system, there are some inequities, because in some countries you can get an ISBN for free, and in other countries you have to pay for them. And there's only one organisation per country that you can officially buy your own ISBNs from that will be registered to you. In the UK, it's a company called Nielsen, and there's an international ISBN controlling body that will tell you where you have to buy yours from. You can, when you have to buy them, you buy them in batches. You can either buy them singly or in tens or hundreds or thousands, larger numbers by request for special quotation. I shouldn't think any Indian author is going to need more than 1,000, but you never know. So I bought 100 when I first set up, and I'm nearing the end now because of all different editions. I've published quite a few other books as well. So every time the book changes, oh yes, so sorry, you get an economy of scale when you buy them. So it'll cost you much more to buy one than if you're buying 10 or 100. You know, you get a sliding scale of economy as you go up. So my advice is to buy the most that you can afford, because you'll be surprised if you're serious about publishing not just one book but loads, you know, making a career out of it, then you will get through quite a few. If you're lucky enough to live in one of those enlightened countries that lets you have them free because they want to encourage books and reading and culture and literature, fantastic. Then have as many as you like, but only you can use those. Otherwise, whoever you loan them to, you know, they'll come back as being published by you. And people often say, oh gosh, I need to pay that, but actually it's not very much in the scheme of things and the total economy of publishing a book. You know, it's a small amount, and it's that additional professional touch as well. You know, that your goal with self-publishing is to make your book indistinguishable from the best traditionally published books. You know, I always say, well, you want it, if you had an identity parade, if you put 10 books on a table, you wouldn't want yours to jump out as the one that is self-published. My daughter, when she's 20 now, but when I started self-publishing, she took great delight in being able to spot which books on my shelf were self-published, because there were some that were not by me, I hasten to add, but you know, books that I picked up from friends who are just starting out. So you shouldn't be able to recognise it as self-published. No, it should look fantastic. So yeah, so sorry, I'm get a bit geeky about ISBNs, because I think it's quite interesting the way it all works.
No, it is really interesting, and I think you're absolutely right. And it's so lovely to see the self-published books that come out of the course, because they are absolutely indistinguishable from a traditionally published book. Like, the quality is just so high, and it's really, really lovely to see.
Yeah.
We've got a question come through on YouTube. Do you personally use the same author name for your hybrid and indie published works?
Yes, I do. There was never any question that I'd do any differently, because what Boldwood wanted was to really, for me to continue what I was doing successfully under their imprint, really. So they wanted me, because I expected, and this is one of the reasons that I love Boldwood, is I expected that they would have their own ideas of what they wanted me to write about, that they'd want more control over my content and all that sort of thing. But they just said, no, we love what you do. We want you to do more of the same. So they wanted me to keep my name, because that was the platform that I built up my success on. So they just wanted to continue with that. I would... I'm quite an open person, and I've never wanted to hide my name or anything. You know, I'm quite happy to have my photograph out. I don't want to hide behind a pseudonym or anything. The only couple of reasons why you might want to use a different name is if for some reason you don't want your name and your photo and so forth out in the public arena. That's fine. You know, supposing you're writing books under a man's name and you're actually a woman, or whatever, you know, for some reason, you know, you want to have a different gender on the name on the book because of the genre of the book, that's acceptable and fine. Or you might have, you know, if you'd had a difficult background that you didn't want people to recognize you as you, that's fine to use a different name. Or if you're going, what has always happened in traditional publishing is that if people change genre, even slightly, publishers would insist on a different name. So, for example, you end up with people who have then got umpteen different published names, like Nora Roberts, Jean Plaidy, J.K. Rowling, of course, had her pen name for adult books. And that actually brings me to another reason for having a different pen name is if you're writing books where the audiences are so incompatible. So if you're writing something with an adult content, but you also have a reputation under a different name for children's books, you know, you don't want children picking up these sort of raunchy other books under your other pen name. But personally, I think that traditional publishers perhaps overestimate how narrow-minded readers are. And I've written some non-fiction sort of memoir and that sort of thing as well. And I think that if readers like my mystery novels, they're probably going to want to read some of these sort of, I've got collected columns that I've written for magazines, and they're probably going to want to read those as well, because, I hope, because they've got the same humour and the same, a lot of the same vibe about them. So I wouldn't get too wound up about having, because it makes life complicated if you've got a lot of different names as well and for different books and different publishers. Although we've got another question there as well.
Yes, still on pen names. So do you think that women writing historical fiction should use a male pen name?
No. Frankly, I'm quite surprised by that, because I never thought, people say that quite a lot about police procedurals and that sort of thing, and equally with romantic novels, people say, oh well, you know, it wouldn't be convincing if it was written by a man. Now, I'm a member of the Romantic Novelists Association. I know there are a lot of good male authors of female, more sort of female oriented books, where readers target readers are female. I mean, you know, gone are the days when, you know, the Bronte sisters had to call themselves Currabell and Acton Bell and so forth because they couldn't be seen to be women. I think maybe, and most book buyers are women anyway. So I don't buy that argument, but I know some people go for initials because they don't want to be perceived as one or the other. Equally, when people might think, oh well, if I'm writing in first person as a male, but I'm actually a female, then that's going to not work. But in fact, I think that does work. I think if the story is good enough, then you forget the gender of the author. I'm just reading Ostler by Susan Grossi, which is written in the first person as a 19th century man. and it's totally convincing. You know, I'm completely buying that the voice of the novel, even though I know Susan and I know she's a girl. A name like Susan, she's got to be a girl. And I've met her, I know she's a girl. You know, so I personally don't worry, but it's up to you what you feel most comfortable with.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, Debbie. So we've got a few minutes left. So can you just talk to us a little bit about the Simply Self-Published course and what you could expect if you were to become a student on that course?
Yeah, okay. It's a 10-week course, and I take you through in a logical sequence through the whole process. The first module is defining what successful self-publishing would mean to you, because it's not all about money. It's not all about selling X number of books. So we talk about different means of success, and you think about, you start to, the onus is on you, the focus is on you, what's right for you. You know, so it's a very personalized course. Then we go through I think the next module is about making your book the best it can be before you start the self-publishing process. Editing, finding beta readers, finding the best editors, and I will help you. Having said that you need all this little gang of people, freelance specialists, I will help you find the right people to help you, whether it's one of the suppliers that Jericho recommends, and they've got a fantastic list of people they can recommend, or whether it's some people I know myself through my own experience. And then we go into the how to set your books up on print on demand on Ingram Spark and Amazon, how to set up ebooks, how to format, how to commission and brief a cover designer. Then we go, so you've got the total production process until your book is ready. But then there's a few more modules after that, because we talk about getting it out, building a reputation, setting up your marketing platform. Essential to have a website. I'm always horrified by how few traditionally published authors have their own websites. How to build a marketing list, mailing list, and how, when, and whether to use social media. How to exploit your intellectual property in other means. We focus on ebook and paperback, because that is the classic starting point, and otherwise it can just get too overwhelming to do too much too soon. So that's the classic starting point. Get those right, and then when you've got those rolling, then you can look at the other formats. Each week of the 10 weeks, there's a live Zoom with a slide presentation and discussion and questions and answers. There's also a supplementary pre-recorded video with more details on a particular subject relevant to each week. There's 3 bits of homework, one of which is to watch the supplementary video. And I will give you feedback on each piece of homework. So it's very, very personal. And also, because I get to know you as students, then I can give you tailored advice to your book, to your ambitions, to your genre, to where you are in your writing career. So you end up with quite a personal recipe, really, for self-publishing your books and reaching the readers you want to reach. It's focused on publishing to a professional standard and getting you started with marketing, getting you poised with a website and with social media platforms if you want them. We look a little bit at other ways of marketing, at advertising, Facebook, Amazon, BookBub. Doesn't go into a huge amount of detail, because this is a 10-week course. There's only so much you can do, and there's only so much you can take on board as well. You know, it's quite intensive, but by the end of the 10 weeks, you'll be amazed at how much more confident and capable you feel. And it's lovely now, as I say, to see the success stories of people publishing fantastic looking books and getting great reviews. One of another one, lovely SM Davis. This was the first. She's now published a second book in this series, and she's also was shortlisted for the best self-published book in the UK last year for the Selfies Award, which was fabulous. I couldn't have been more pleased for it. It's fabulous, and their success is all well deserved. They all work hard. You know, I don't do anything for them, but they know how to do it by the time they're finished.
Yeah, no, it's so lovely seeing them all come through, and it's definitely my mic that's causing the echo, because every time I went to on mic, it was causing it. But no, that's such a brilliant roundup of the course, and I've popped the link to the course in the comments. So if you're interested in being tutored by Debbie for 10 weeks, then go and have a look. But thank you so much for joining us today, Debbie. It's been really, really helpful hearing all your views on self-publishing and hybrid publishing. It's an absolute minefield, and I can't imagine doing it without someone like you to guide me through it. So your expertise is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, if anyone has any more questions about self-publishing, do get in touch. The course also has a year of Jericho Writers membership included. So even after the course is finished, you know, we're still going to be there helping you every step of the way for a whole year after the course finishes. So we really are with you for every word. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that the Q&A on Twitter was helpful today. And yeah, it's been wonderful chatting to you all. Oh, we've got one quick question about cost. It's 2,500 is the cost. All of the details are on the website there, and I will quickly grab a link. You can book a call to chat with our courses team if you would like to find out any more information. Let me just grab that link. Here we go. So yeah, if you want to talk to us about the course at all and have any questions, then do get in touch and book a call with us, and we will be more than happy to answer any questions. So thank you so much, Debbie, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
And you. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.